Yo, what's up guys, TheInsaneGamefreak here. I usually don't make discussions based off of movies I've watched because usually movies I watch, at least especially in this day and age, aren't anything that really intrigue the shit out of me. But I just finished watching a movie called Bernie, and there's a very interesting concept with this movie because it's based on a true story, and the situation is just ridiculous. So the discussions on justified murder, which you'll find very weird considering it's a movie with Jack Black and Matthew McConaughey in it, and what is this lady's name? Shirley MacLaine. Yeah, Shirley MacLaine. I suggest watching this movie first because one, it's a really good movie, and two, because I'm going to essentially spoil the entire movie for the most part in order to do the discussion so you understand where I'm coming from. So I would still say watching it, it's a dark comedy, but honestly I didn't really laugh at it. Here's the thing about this. You won't really laugh at the movie. It's weird. It's funny in premise, and there are scenes that are funny when you think about them in the real world sense of the whole situation, about how unrealistic this is, even though this is a true story. Like, this is literally following the story by the book. I know because I actually went out of my way and looked at the actual special features and the DVD extras and I even looked up the goddamn case that it's based on because it just baffled me so much. It's one of those things that's really funny. And so, without further ado, let's just get into it. Okay, so the discussions on justified murder, I don't even know if I should call it a discussion. It might as well be a ramble because that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. Here's the situation that I'm basing this on. Bernie, this movie is about a character named Bernie, really nice guy, just overwhelmed, like he's just overly liked in his entire town. He's very giving, he's very generous, he's very caring. No one has anything negative to say about him. The only two things that were negatively said about him is that people might think that there were rumors that he was gay and that he sometimes would be overly generous. Like, he does not know when to not be nice. But it never got creepy. He just gave a little bit too much and people thought he was gay. There were rumors that he was gay. Anyways, he was particularly, he was a part of the funeral home. And he was really nice to people during the services. Like, he did his job really well. And he connected with a lot of older women because a lot of, widows. And there's this one particular widow that was actually hated by that same town. That he ended up, just through his normal way of helping widows out, he ended up opening her up a little bit. Mind you, it wasn't like the opening up that you're thinking, that she, got to talk to people more. Or there's still rumors about whether they were in love or not, but it was literally just more of, he got her to kind of enjoy life because the way she was like an evil bitch. Mind you, that didn't really change much because very soon after they had gotten closer, and she was rich, by the way, because her husband had died. They met through the death of her husband. She had become like possessive of him. She was really possessive of him. It was kind of to the point where she fired like all of her other staff at her house and had Bernie do everything. That's how ridiculous it got. And the story pretty much is that where it evolves into a case is that it got to the point where she wouldn't let Bernie do anything like of his own accord. Because the thing about him is that he has that same problem that all nice guys have, that he didn't know how to say no or to say fuck you to people. So she essentially guilt-tripped him by like buying him expensive things, but essentially limiting his freedom at the same time, to the point where he just shot her like 4 times and killed her. And that's not the absurd part. The absurd part is that he hid her in the freezer for 9 months, and he was able to play it off for 9 months. And he didn't dispose of the body. He just hid it in the freezer in the house, and went about everything like normal. Just came up with a whole bunch of lies that worked with her personality, because she was still a mean bitch. And she hadn't even talked to her family in years. So it wasn't like there were very, very, very few people wondering where she was. There was maybe like 2 or 3 people. And he could kind of BS all of them except for like her accountant, who eventually is the one who led to Bernie getting arrested and shit. And so and the thing is that, you know, she had trusted him to the point where she had put him in her will and gave him control of all of her finances and shit before even her own grandchildren or her actual family. Like, her family aren't even in her will. It went all to Bernie. So Bernie had legal control over funds. But the thing is, he didn't spend any of the money on himself. I mean, here's one of the funny parts of it. He paid for like new stores to be built, new fucking stores, bought new cars for people, bought jet skis for people, bought like this playground for this family. He did all these nice things, and yet it was said that apparently he was still like late on his own car payments. Now just think about that for a second. The absurdity of, you have all this money that you've gotten from this bitch that you've killed, and you have legal control of all of it, and you're late on your own goddamn car payments. And it was so weird. It was so weird. He was still nice. He was still doing all these cool things. And when he got caught, and this is what the absurdity of the real story is, when he got caught, meaning when they broke into the house and found her body in the freezer, he confessed like right when he was taken in. Like, he didn't deny it. He didn't go through any of that. He confessed. He straight out confessed. He didn't even bullshit lie. He just confessed. And they had to move the thing to a state trial instead of a local trial. The reasoning why was because he would have gotten off innocent if they had kept it local. That's how ridiculous it was. That he was so well liked, and he was such a good person, that if they had kept it in the state, if they had kept it just locally, he would. And this happened in Texas. This was in East Texas. I forget the actual name of the town, but it's like a really small town in East Texas. They had to make it locally. They had to make it like state Texas wide because he would have gotten off for being too damn nice. And this is where the whole discussion ramble really comes in. I just spent like the first few minutes describing the story, but here's the thing. He was tried, and he was, you know, determined to be guilty, and he's actually serving a life sentence for that. Here's the thing, though. If you were on a jury with a similar case, or even that case itself, would you convict the guy of murdering a woman, even considering you know all that? You know that the woman was an evil bitch. He didn't even use any of the money that he could have on himself. He didn't even try to dispose of the body. Oh, and get this. Guess what his reasoning was for not getting rid of the body? He still wanted to give her a nice funeral. Like, he didn't even throw out like, oh, I hated her in the damn jury trial. It was literally like, he still cared for her a lot. And it was like, you shot her 4 times, but you wanted to preserve her body for a proper burial. And then on top of that, you still love her. What the fuck? And it's so weird, because it's like, it's so hard to just be like, oh, he's an evil monster. And it's like, and it's weird. It's like, oh, if you murder once, you'll murder again. But when you have murders like this, it's kind of hard to just say, we need to throw him in jail for the rest of his life, because he's totally going to do it again, considering the only reason why he did it this time was because he was thrown into that breaking point. And it was so weird. And it also brings up another question. He mentioned something I've heard a lot of people say in trials, where he's like, oh, I didn't even think of me as the one doing it. I felt like I don't even remember doing it. Like, it was kind of like he kind of used that whole out of a body experience where he didn't even, like, he blacked out for a second and then came back and was like, oh God. Like, even when you see the scene in the movie, it's just like, he's just kind of standing there with the gun shooting emotionlessly, and then he kind of like has a normal reaction and starts crying and freaking out and shit. And it's like, what the fuck? It's one of those. That's why it's funny. It's like funny. It's funny because he carried on with all of his normal duties and his, doing singing in the church and doing the normal burials for other funerals and shit. It was so weird. He kept up appearances. He kept up appearances with everybody. It was so weird. And my thing is, does he really need to go to jail for life for that? I mean, the only reason why I probably would still convict him guilty if I was on the trial is because he had other options. But when you look at when I looked at that scene and I look at it, it's like, is that whole concept of out of body experience, is that really something that's justified, that you can say that? Because it's one of those things that you really won't notice until you've done it yourself. Like, people with anger issues probably could say that, because a lot of people with anger issues are mentions like, oh, I just blacked out. Even my sister tells me this shit. Like, I'm not even joking. My sister is like very violent. Used to be really, really violent. Like, to the point where she would threaten me by picking up TVs and shit. And she's older. She's still violent, but she's not as violent. And we talk, and she's actually told me the same shit. She's like blacked out or some shit. I'm like, it's so hard because for me, I still think it's morally wrong to kill a person, especially because the lady hadn't done anything to like kill anyone else. I mean, she did fire a shit ton of people, and she did become this distant evil bitch, but she never physically or financially fucked over people for the sake of it. She was just a mean evil bitch. Like, that's really what she was. But at the same time, no one liked her. Even her own family didn't even fuck about. She hadn't talked to certain family members for like 10 years, like decades and shit. Hell, I think 2 of her family members wanted to sue her. It's like when you have cases like this, can you really be like, yeah, that man should go to jail for life? I'm not saying he shouldn't go to jail. He should totally go to jail. But can you really convict a man to life for that? Like, it's so hard because it brings, I mean, to me, it's like if you don't convict him to jail, or if you give people who have this weird middleman situation in terms of murder off the hook, which they've done for worse cases, ironically, which is probably why people say the justice system is flawed, because you have people like him who are like the most likely murderers you'd be willing to let go, and then you have people who are just blatant murderers who get off scotch-free. And it's just kind of like, the legal system is flawed, because that's fucking ridiculous. But at the same time, murder is murder. I mean, you've seen my video on death and morality. I don't just view this. I view that everyone has the right to live. I don't think the death penalty just seems really mean. It just seems cost effective. That's the thing about the death penalty. It's like, oh, we don't have to take care of all these evil bodies, quote unquote. So we'll kill them all. And it's like, nah, the death penalty is kind of pushing it. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, this bugs the shit out of me. Because it's like, where do you draw the line of morality? It's like, murder is bad, but it's like, there's no such thing as just straight black and white in the world. The world is gray. There's a whole bunch of gray areas and shit. And I'm like, he murdered an older woman. But she was an older woman. She was a mean, hateful older woman. She was restricting his freedom, and she was tormenting him. Not physically, but emotionally. And it's like, I don't think she deserved to die, but it's like, can I really send a man to jail for the rest of his life considering how much good he did before and after the incident? So it's like, I don't know. I really don't. It inherently bothers me. It's very intriguing, but it bothers me. It's like, can you do that and it just be straight justified? Because I don't think you can be. Like, that's the problem. It's like so gray of an area. What, honestly, and here's a better question. Would you have been mad if he had gotten off as innocent instead of guilty? Because, I don't know. I still think he should have. I believe he should have served time in jail. Period. I don't know if I'm not sure if I would have been like life though, because they gave him life, which I believe is like 50 years. I don't know if I would give him life. I don't know. It's a very, he was 30 when he was convicted, so, well, 30 probably going on 31. So 50 years, he'll be like 80. like 80 something or 90 something. I heard he was like in his 30s. I don't know. It's this is the thing that bugs me. It's like, where do we draw that line between what is like justified murder, and is there really such a thing as justified murder? You know, I think we even have a line for that. It's like, well, if he kills my daughter, I have the right to kill him as justified murder. Or, I mean, the most obvious justified murder I've heard is killing in self-defense. That's like the only justified murder I've heard. And even that can be debatable because you're assuming that that man's going to stop at nothing to kill you, to kill in self-defense. It's hard. It really is. Like, where do we draw that line? And it's like, for this particular situation, it's like, I can't necessarily say that he was just, the only reason why I would still probably, I mean, as I said, the reason why I would truly convict him is because he had other options. It wasn't like he was trapped physically and completely. Because the thing about human logic and life is that for the majority of the time, you're never 100% trapped in anything. There's always an option to get out. And it wasn't like he was being threatened with anything. It was just a guilt trip because she would buy things for him. And even in the movie, I was like, fuck that bitch. Get the fuck out. But, and I think it relates to me because I am, quote unquote, a nice guy on some level. It's, oh man, I don't know. I thought it'd be an interesting topic, but it's not a topic that I necessarily know the answer to. It's a topic where I'm just kind of like, what do you think? Like, I'm literally throwing this out here to get a feedback because I don't know. I don't fucking know. But I've said that like 80 times, but still think he should go to jail. Don't know if I would have given him life though, because there's too many pros to outweigh the cons. The three cons he has is that he lied for 9 months. He spent the woman's money, even though legally he had the right to before he even killed her. And it wasn't premeditated. That was the other thing. It wasn't like he didn't plan to kill her. He had just gotten like increasingly frustrated with her. But it wasn't like where he was like, fuck you, bitch, I'm gonna kill you. No, literally, they were actually going out that day. They had both, before they had walked into the garage, they both had the mindset of going to go get something to eat. And he just stopped at the door right before, as he shut it. And he just thought about knowing that she was going to just continue to do this, and then the next thing you know, she's fucking dead. Like that's how weird it was. It was like, I don't know. And then so the only cons he has is that it was a murder. That he killed her, he hit her body, and he lied about it. I can't even say he's in trouble for spending the money because legally she gave him the right to spend her money before, and he never, even in the movie or the case, showed signs of just abusing her funds because, as I said, he didn't spend any of it on himself. He was late with car payments even though he had the damn money to get it. Like, it's hard. Life is hard sometimes. That's something I really, really don't know what to say. And, like, where do we draw that line? Where do we stop and be like, this is just complete... And here's the thing, since nothing is like 100% wrong half the time, it makes it even worse. And this is like 90%. The only wrong part about it is the worst part about it. Like if you broken her leg, I probably wouldn't have minded as much. I kind of wouldn't have laughed. I would have laughed at her if it was just like a broken leg or some shit. But I'm done. Thoughts, comments. I'm gonna go watch some Sword Art Online, get my head out of this shit. Because I don't think I'll ever come up with a definite answer. That's the other thing about life I've noticed. You will never come up with definite answers for half of these questions. They're kind of just things you ponder, which is why a lot of people in the real world will be like, why the hell are you pondering shit you'll never find answers to? Not because it's not a bad thing to think about it. And it's actually pretty interesting in its own right. But whatever, now I'm rambling. So, life's a game, play to win. Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Go watch Bernie. That was a really good movie. And, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.